We are live at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia. It is SEC Media Days. I am being stared at by a mannequin concession worker behind me. That's how you know college football is right around the corner. Tomorrow is Texas Day here in the ATL. What are the biggest questions that I have for the Longhorns this week? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember to leave a comment. It's one of the fastest ways you help us grow right here on Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We will talk a little Texas recruiting at the end of the show as the Longhorns picked up a commitment on Friday night. We'll also talk about some of the misses for the Horns over the weekend. But SEC Media Days are underway in Atlanta, Georgia. The event lasts 4 days. 4 teams will be represented on each of the 4 days. Today, it's LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt that are here. Tomorrow is Texas Day. Texas will be here along with Georgia, along with Auburn and Tennessee. Georgia and Auburn will speak in the morning. UT and UT will speak in the afternoon. And the Longhorns contingent, of course, features head coach Steve Sarkisian, quarterback Arch Manning, linebacker Anthony Hill, and Michael Taaffe, the safety going into his final year with Texas. I'm excited to hear from all of them tomorrow, and we'll have plenty of sound, and we'll have plenty of quotes throughout the week right here on Locked On Longhorns. But today, as we kind of preview Texas Day here at SEC Media Days, we're running down some questions that I have for Steve Sarkisian and the 3 Texas players who will be here. And I'd love to hear from y'all too. Comment below if you had the opportunity to ask Steve Sarkisian, Arch Manning, Anthony Hill, or Michael Taaffe a question. What would you ask? I might even try to ask them myself some of y'all's best questions. So comment below, what do you want to hear from the Texas contingent that is making their way to the ATL? I'll start with the head coach. Biggest questions for Steve Sarkisian here at SEC Media Days, as we're now less than 50 days away from the start of the 2025 season. Question number 1, what has to happen for your team to get over the semifinal hump? Texas, the only team in America that's made it to back-to-back college football playoff semifinals. That's a good thing. That means you're really good. That means you're consistent. That means things are going in the right direction. But at some point, yeah, it's great to be knocking on the door for a national championship. You need to break down that door. I'm not going to sit here and say that, if Texas loses in the semifinal again this year, it's a bad season. No, that's still a great season, but we're so close, you can almost taste it. Texas fans are looking to take that next step. What needs to happen for you to get over the semifinal round, get to the national championship game, and more importantly, win a national title and bring the first national championship back to Austin since 2005. So things are clearly going right, but what has to happen for your team to get over that hump? Steve Sarkisian was 7-win Sark for a long time. He got rid of that moniker. Now he's semifinal Sark. How does he get to the next level? Well, it is SEC Media Days. Another question, how do you beat Georgia, right? And it's only 2 games that Texas and Georgia have played as members of the same conference. So I don't want to sit here and call Georgia some unbeatable team. But Georgia was the only SEC team to beat Texas last year. And, of course, they beat the Longhorns twice in 2024. So when focusing on this conference, how do you beat Georgia? They've been the class of this league for the last few years. If you are going to win an SEC championship, odds are you are going to have to beat Georgia either in the regular season or in the SEC championship game. Texas might have the opportunity to play the Bulldogs twice again this year. Game 1 in Austin did not go well at all. Just about everything that could have gone wrong for Texas went wrong for Texas. Game 2 here in Atlanta, a lot better. Bert Auburn makes a couple of field goals. Maybe Texas wins the SEC in year 1, but ultimately the Longhorns get to overtime. They come up short. They lose by 3, and they don't win the SEC title. They go 0-2 against Georgia. So how do you overcome Georgia? The Longhorns will get an opportunity in Athens late in the regular season. And again, they might get another opportunity here in the ATL in the month of December. Another question for Steve Sarkisian. Do you have enough talent? Do you have enough experience to overcome the loss of 12 NFL draft picks? Look, Texas lost 11 guys to the NFL draft in 2023 to 24. They responded by making it back to the college football playoff semifinal. So they did it once. So it's not a huge concern for me, but it's a fair question to ask when you look at everything that Texas lost, from a 3-year starter at quarterback to a bunch of your top receivers to the best tight end you've ever had in school history, or at least the tight end who had the best single season in school history, to 4 offensive linemen who were a part of a Joe Moore Award finalist offensive line, to the Thorpe Award winner on defense, to Andrew McCoy. I mean, I don't have to tell y'all. Y'all know everything that Texas lost. Do you have enough to withstand the loss of everything that will now be playing on Sundays? Again, Texas passed this test last year. Double-digit draft picks. They responded with a fantastic season. Can lightning strike twice? Can they do the same thing and replace all of those really, really talented pieces that are now in the NFL? It's a fair question. I don't know if someone's going to word it exactly like that, but someone's going to ask Sark that question. And the good news is, you look around the conference, you look around the country, most of the teams that made deep runs to the college football playoff are also replacing a number of guys. I mean, Ohio State, who Texas will open up the season against, they lost 14 guys to the draft. Georgia, the other team that beat Texas, lost 13 guys to the NFL draft. Look around the nation, right? This is a common theme, and the best teams are able to do this every year and still bounce back. You don't rebuild, you just reload. That's what Texas, once again, that's what they did last year. Can they do that again this season? Another question for Sark. You know he's going to be asked about 15 different things about Arch Manning, so I'll ask the most basic one. How will this offense be different under Arch Manning? Going from a 3-year starter at quarterback with Quinn Ewers, now going to Arch Manning. Look, Arch started a couple of games last year. He appeared in a number more, so it's not like you're breaking in a guy who has never played a snap of football in college or in the SEC, but obviously it's a little bit different when you're the guy versus when you're the guy kind of thrust in due to injury. So we know Arch Manning has a different skill set than Quinn Ewers. The dual threat ability that he has, that's different. I think Arch Manning throws a much better and prettier deep ball than Quinn Ewers. So do we see more of that in the Texas offense this year? How are you going to tailor your offense to Arch Manning's abilities? Sark's got one of the best offenses in college football. He's regarded as one of the best offensive minds in the sport. He's not going to reinvent the wheel or do anything crazy just because he has Arch Manning as his guy. But obviously, with the tools that Arch Manning possesses, you can call some things that you couldn't call with Quinn. And I guess sort of a follow-up question is, do you trust Arch Manning to run your entire offense in week 1, or do you want to ease him into it? The good news is Arch, once again, has experience because he's going into his 3rd year with Texas. So he should know the offense. He should have everything figured out at this point. But does Sark kind of unleash him? Does he take the training wheels off in week 1, or is there a little bit of a, hey, let's like gradually increase more plays and increase your workload over the course of the season? That's a question. So how does this offense look different with Arch compared to what it looked like with Quinn the last few seasons? Another question for Steve Sarkisian. And again, comment below. I would love to hear from you guys questions that you would ask Sark tomorrow. I do wonder about leadership, especially on the offensive side of the football. Only 3 starters back from 2024. Where is that leadership going to come from? Now, you've got Trey Wisner back. You've got DeAndre Moore. You've got DJ Campbell. Those are your 3 guys. Are they going to be your leaders? Is Arch Manning going to be the leader just because he plays quarterback? That's something that Arch has worked on a ton this offseason, and he's openly talked about it, and Steve Sarkisian has openly talked about it. It's not just the on-field stuff. It's making sure Arch is maturing and developing as a leader. So is he the guy who's going to be asked to galvanize this locker room? Where do the leaders come from, especially on offense? And then a couple more. The defensive line. How are the transfers fitting in? Texas went out and got 5 portal defensive linemen this offseason. They, of course, lost 7 scholarship defensive linemen from a year ago. So a lot departing, a lot of new faces. Most of those guys, I think 4 of them played in the Big Ten. The other one played at North Carolina. So you've got guys with major college football experience That's the good news, but the bad news is, well, we haven't seen it at Texas. I don't know if that's bad news. That's the way college football works in 2025, but we're just not sure because we haven't seen it with our own eyes in the burnt orange and white. How are those new defensive linemen coming? How do they do in the spring? What are your expectations? What's the rotation going to look like? Because the D-line play at Texas has been instrumental to the Horns' success. You can't have some major drop-off. You can't be porous on the teeth of your defense to where teams are able to run it up the gut nonstop and have success. You have to have some semblance of a pass rush from the interior of your defensive line. You've had that with T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy and Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton. Do you have that now with some of the new guys that you brought in? The Cole Brevards, the Travis Shaws, the Murad Watsons, the Hero Canoes. Are those guys good enough to make that type of impact and wreck an opposing game plan the way your defensive linemen have in each of the last 2 years? So those are the questions. I maybe would ask Sark about the Ohio State kickoff time situation. Someone's probably going to ask that one. That feels like a Kirk Bowles one, doesn't it? But no, for me, that's what I want to learn from Steve Sarkisian this week. Hopefully he gets asked those. He'll get asked a bunch of stuff as he addresses the media tomorrow. But it's not just Sark who's going to be here in the ATL. Again, 3 Texas players will be accompanying him. It's Arch Manning, it's Anthony Hill, it's Michael Taaffe. What questions would you ask them if you had the opportunity to? I'm going to answer that question myself when we return right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute that you want to head to a ball game with friends and family? I might be doing this tonight. The Home Run Derby's in Atlanta tonight. The MLB All-Star Game is here tomorrow. I don't have tickets right now, but there's a chance I head over to Game Time and pull the trigger and buy some tickets for one or both of the events. And the beauty of Game Time, you save so much money that you could splurge on food, on drinks, on merch. You can even invite a bigger group of people to come to the game with you. Game Time is the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. They make buying tickets so simple. Prices actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views so you know exactly what the view from your seat is going to be before you purchase. And again, the lowest price guarantee so you don't have to worry about anything. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account on the Game Time app, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. We ran down my list of questions for Steve Sarkisian. What about the questions I would ask the Texas players who will be traveling here to the College Football Hall of Fame for SEC Media Days tomorrow? We'll start with Arch Manning. Look, there's a 0.01% chance that I'm able to get a question for Arch. I mean, the media scrum surrounding him tomorrow is going to be insane. Feels more like Arch Manning days than SEC Media Days. I've been asked about him like 10 times already today. He is the biggest storyline of the week, and of course, he'll be the biggest storyline tomorrow. So we'll see. I don't even know if Arch Manning's going to be able to go to the bathroom without like 5 people following him in there to try to get a question in. I'm kind of kidding. I'm not sure I really am. It's going to be insane, a madhouse around here when Arch is walking the hallways tomorrow afternoon. But hey, if I could ask Arch a question, maybe the first question would be, how do you tune out the noise, dude? Like, the noise is loud right now, but if Arch Manning goes out, let's say he throws a couple of interceptions and Texas loses that week 1 game at Ohio State. I'll knock on wood that it doesn't happen, but that's a realistic possibility. Arch Manning, everything that he does is going to be viewed with a telescope. Forget a magnifying glass, forget a microscope. It's a telescope. Everybody is going to be watching every single thing that this guy does. We've already seen it. He hasn't played that much, but when he's been on the field, the loudest cheers at DKR is when Arch Manning comes onto the field. When he lost his student ID like a month into his college career, and that became a national story. Like, everything this guy does has become a big deal, and he hasn't even really been the starting quarterback at Texas. So how do you tune out the noise? There's going to be some bumps. There's going to be some growing pains. It's not always easy when you're a quarterback in this conference, especially when you're a first-year quarterback in this conference. How do you tune out the noise when things go bad? When things are going good, it's pretty easy. Hey, log online, people are talking good about you. That's fun. You want to be a part of that. When things aren't going so good, your team's losing, you're struggling. How do you, tune out the noise and make sure that you are focused on what you need to do? I do wonder if anyone's going to ask Arch if, now this isn't one that I would ask him, but somebody I think is going to ask Arch if he believes that he should have played more last year. Arch has been asked questions about how tough was it to sit for a couple of years, and he's been open. He said it was tough. Like, he wants to play. Most of these guys do. They're competitive. They're gamers. They want to be out there doing what they can to help their team win. I do wonder if someone's going to be like, hey, should you have gotten more run last year? And I do wonder what Arch would answer, or how Arch would answer that question. I'd also ask him about the wide receiver room. And Texas is losing a lot on the outside. No Matthew Golden, no Silas Bolden, no Isaiah Bond. And if you want to throw Gunnar Hellman there at tight end, he's obviously off to the NFL as well. So it's, guys who have been at Texas before for the most part, but guys who obviously are going to see their roles increase pretty dramatically in 2025. So how are things going with Ryan Wingo? How does he look? DeAndre Moore coming off of an injury. How is he looking right now? One of the transfers, one of the new faces, Emmett Mosley V, coming in from Stanford. How is he doing so far with this Texas offense? And then, again, throwing the tight end in there, Jack Endries, a guy who I think is about to have a sensational season in Austin. But how are things going with that wide receiver room? And, of course, the younger guys, too. Parker Livingston, Aaron Butler going into year 2. Texas brought in the best wide receiver recruiting class in America this year with just 4 studs, 4 blue chippers. How are those guys doing? I don't know if Arch Manning would answer the question like, hey, should we expect to see them a lot this year? But I do want to know, because those guys are going to be incredibly important, how that wide receiver room is coming along. All right, some of the other questions for the other Texas players who will be here. Going over to Anthony Hill on defense. Anthony Hill's a confident guy. And I wonder if you asked him, hey, does Texas have the best linebacker room in the country? I feel like he would say yes. And that's what I would ask him. Like, I want to hear him confidently say that he believes Texas has the best linebacker room in the country. I've got the Phil Steele magazine right next to me. Phil Steele has Texas as the number 1 linebacking room in the country. The Athlon Sports Preview magazine, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. They also believe that Texas has the best linebacking room in America. So, Anthony Hill, do you believe that Texas has the best linebackers in college football? And what makes that room so special? Kind of a follow-up, so you don't hit them with just a yes, no question. Another one I would ask, hey, how does this defense get even better in 2025? The Texas defense has been really, really good in each of the last 2 years, especially last year, right? 2 years ago, the run defense was elite. The defense was good enough to win the Big 12 and make it to the college football playoff, but we know the secondary was a problem in 2023, and that got exposed in that Sugar Bowl game. Last year, Texas was one of the most complete defenses in America. Well, you lose Jahdae Barron, you lose Andrew Makuba, you lose Barron Sorrell, you lose Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, key pieces from last year's squad. How does this defense get better in 2025? You'd like to think there's a chance that it can, because there's talent at all 3 levels on this Longhorn D. So what needs to happen for that group to be, again, more improved in 2025? Then I would also want to know about Brad Spence, the Arkansas transfer, right? What is he bringing to the Texas linebacker room? Brad Spence, maybe not the most heralded transfer that Texas brought in, but a guy who was the 3rd leading tackler at Arkansas last season. So he's played in this conference. He's had some success in this conference. He's not going to be asked to start. You've got Ant Hill and you've got Leonga Lafau, but to have a guy like Brad Spence who can play a couple of different positions and can just spell Anthony Hill and Leonga Lafau, like that's nice. That is huge. Texas losing David Benda, who did a lot of that last year as a 6-year guy, getting Brad Spence to make sure it's not just 2 linebackers who are doing 100% of the work for your team all season long. It was a great pickup. I was a big fan of that one, and I would love to know, from Ant Hill, a guy who practices next to him every day, how is Brad Spence coming along in Austin? And then for Michael Taaffe, the do-it-all, the former walk-on turned All-American. I mean, what a great story and what a cool opportunity it is for him to be representing Texas at SEC Media Days. I'd want to ask him point blank, hey, how do you overcome the losses of Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba, right? I mean, those 3 guys are great friends. They've known each other forever. They're all from Central Texas. They all train with the same trainer. So, the talent that those 3 guys had was obvious, but the chemistry that those guys had and the communication, which is so important. I talked to Roman Harper, SEC Network analyst, longtime DB in the NFL, talked to him earlier today, And he's like, man, that matters a lot. Like having that communication, having that chemistry, so you know exactly where your teammate is going to be. So, if I got to veer off of my assignment, I know that guy's going to be there to back me up. That stuff matters. Texas had that last year. They didn't have it 2 years ago. Will they have it this year without Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba? It's a fair question. I'd love to know the answer to that from Michael Taaffe. I would also want to ask him about the battle at the other cornerback spot, the corner opposite Manny Muhammad. You've got Jalen Gilbo, who's switching to that position. You've got Kobe Black. You've got Wardell Mack. You've got a bunch of candidates to be that number 2 corner for the Longhorns this year, but who has emerged? Who, it's something that might get decided in fall camp, but I'd love to hear Michael Taaffe kind of break that down as well. Would love to know about Derek Williams, how he's doing coming off of that knee injury that he suffered in the Oklahoma game last year. And then Jonah Williams. Have to ask a Jonah Williams question, right? I mean, with what we saw him do on the diamond this year, guy's a freak athlete. How's this transition from baseball to football coming? He was a top 10 recruit in college football in America last year. So the expectations for Jonah Williams were high when he got to campus, and then they got elevated even higher because of what he was able to do this baseball season for Jim Schlossnagle. So, Jonah Williams, how's he coming along, and what can we expect from the two-sport freshman phenom? So that's a lot. That's a lot of questions there. That's what I want to know. I assume we'll get some, if not all, of those answered tomorrow when Texas is here. But again, would love to hear from you guys. What questions would you ask the Texas contingent here in Atlanta? What do you want to know as the Longhorns grace us with their presence at SEC Media Days? All right, one segment left on today's show. We've got some good recruiting news. Feels good to say that. There hasn't been enough of that lately. Good recruiting news. Texas picked up a commitment over the weekend from one of the top corners in the class of 2026. We will talk about it next right here on Locked On Longhorns. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Friday nights, the Longhorns landed a commitment from 4-star cornerback Samari Smoke Matthews. Great nickname. Top 60 player in the country. Of course, you don't get a nickname like Smoke if you can't ball. The 6th-ranked corner in the class of 2026, according to the composite rankings. Smoke Matthews, 6 feet, 6'1", about 190 pounds, from the state of North Carolina. He picked the Longhorns over South Carolina, Miami, and Florida State. Those were the other 3 finalists there, but this dude had offers from just about everybody around college football. Great high school football player, also a track star at his high school as well. And this is a big win for new Texas defensive backs coach Mark Orfe. Maybe his first really big win since he got to Austin earlier this year. Orfe offered Matthews, I think we talked about this last week, on his very first day on the job. Mark Orfe offered Smoke Matthews back in January, and he stayed on him ever since. And that clearly meant something to Smoke Matthews, right? Oh, man, you're going to offer me literally your first day on the job. You haven't even moved into your place yet, and you're already offering me a scholarship. That mattered to Smoke Matthews, and I think that was a big part of why he ended up committing to Texas. Matthews visited a few other places. He's from the East Coast, but Texas was able to maintain the lead for the majority of the past few months of this recruitment. It's a great sign for Mark Orfe. Look, Orfe's a younger guy, a bit unproven. Texas brought him over from Rutgers. Rutgers is far from a college football powerhouse. I know when the hire happened a few months ago, it didn't really move the needle for a lot of Longhorn fans. There was a lot of who when the news came out. But I think a big part of the Orfe hire was because Steve Sarkisian believed that he could be a factor on the recruiting trail. You look at Kenny Baker, you look at Alan Clark, other guys that Texas has brought in as assistant coaches that maybe had less than stellar resumes before they got to Austin. They get hired at Texas. Those 2 dudes have recruited like madmen. I mean, Kenny Baker did a great job in his first cycle. Alan Clark's only been here for a couple of months. He's done a tremendous job as well. Like, I don't want to call Orfe an ace yet. He's got a few more guys that he has to get to Texas before we can start calling him elite or recruiting ace or anything like that. But again, Smoke Matthews was a big fish for him, maybe the first big fish that Mark Orfe really went after at Texas, and he was able to reel him in. So that is great news. And Matthews was asked about his relationship with the Texas coaching staff. He said, quote, Coach Orfe has been huge. From day one, he kept it real with me. He wasn't trying to sell a dream. He was showing me how I'd fit into what they're building. He also said that Coach Akina and Coach Sarkisian were big in his process as well. Said they believed in me, not just for what I bring on the field, but the kind of person I am off of it as well. That made me feel like I wasn't just another recruit. I was someone they saw as family, end quote. So high praise for Dwayne Aquina, high praise for Steve Sarkisian in there as well. But of course, Mark Orfe getting the first nod. He was the lead recruiter on this one, and he was able to get it done. And this shows Texas's ability to recruit the whole country. This isn't just an in-state thing or a regional thing anymore. Texas can go all over the U.S. and bring in top talent. I mean, you look at the class of 2026, you've got a quarterback commit from Florida. You got defensive linemen committed from Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi. You've got an edge rusher, a 5-star edge rusher from California. Now you've got a cornerback from North Carolina. These are all blue-chip recruits that other schools a lot closer to these kids really wanted. And Sark and company are proving that they can go after anybody they want, regardless of where they are. With this commitment, Matthews joins Hayward Howard Jr. and Yaheem Riley as the 2026 secondary additions so far for Texas. Jermaine Bishop is also a part of the class, the 5-star from Willis. He could eventually play defensive back at Texas. I think he'll probably play wide receiver on offense, but a two-way player for his high school team, and we'll see how he gets used when he steps on the 40 acres. But a great pickup for the Longhorns, the 18th commitment in the class of 2026, and Texas now has the 9th-ranked class in America. It's still going up. I know it's been a rough couple of weeks for Texas. It feels like, well, it doesn't just feel like, it's been the case where there have been more misses than hits for the Horns on the recruiting trail, kind of late June and into July. But just be patient. Be patient. Steve Sarkisian and his coaching staff have proven time and again that they know what they're doing when it comes to recruiting. I'm fully confident that the Longhorns will once again bring in a top 5 class when this thing is all said and done. Still more than 4.5 months away from National Signing Day. And again, you're starting to see some pieces come together, and Smoke Matthews being added to this class is a big one at a big position of need. Texas continues to recruit the secondary incredibly well. There's so much young talent on campus already, and Sark and company clearly making the point to continue doing that moving forward. So great recruiting get for Texas on Friday. Unfortunately, the Longhorns missed out on commitments from both of the tight ends who committed on Saturday. Caden Prothro gave his pledge to Georgia. Hezzy Kent, my favorite target in this class, the 6'5", 300-pound tight end, he pledged to Florida. So Texas 0 for 2 on the tight ends over the weekend. Kiwi Brown, a name to look out for, the tight end from the state of California. He's going to commit later this month. I think he's now the top priority for Texas at that position. Obviously, we'll talk more about him, and we'll talk more recruiting as this week goes along. But that's going to do it for today's show from the ATL. If you made it this far, number one, thank you. Number two, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share, turn the notifications on, rate 5 stars, all of those great things. We really do appreciate y'all tuning in to Locked On Longhorns. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets. My man Lee Sterling doing a great job giving you everything you need in the world of sports from a betting perspective, trying to help you make a little bit of money. You don't have to wait till football season to start cashing in those bets. Locked On Bets has you covered every single day with all of the advice you need to beat the bookie. Again, plenty more from SEC Media Days throughout the course of the week. We'll talk Texas recruiting as well, but that's going to do it for today. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.